Det skal handle om koronaviruset og hvordan koronaviruset virkelig oppstod. Donald Trump, Bidens forgjenger, kalte det bare the China virus, men nå kommer det fra Det hvite hus at også Biden-administrasjonen skal gå dypere inn i dette. De har satt ned en egen gruppe som har fått 3 måneder på seg til å finne ut av om koronaviruset skyldte lekkasjer fra et laboratorium i Wuhan i Kina.
Det er en ekstremt dramatisk vending i denne saken, hvis det faktisk viser at det er noe, eller potensielt noe hold i disse, det vi har antatt har vært konspirasjonsteorier om at det har vært produsert i et kinesisk laboratorium. Så jeg er først og fremst veldig spent på hva man klarer å finne ut ved å gå tilbake i historikken på viruset.
Ja, det er akkurat som Hanne sier, at det har vært en konspirasjonsteori, og vi avfeier det litt for å komme fra Trump og ikke hørt på det, Men jeg synes absolutt man skal finne ut av det, selvfølgelig.
Tony Fauci does not mind going on television in front of the people who pay his salary and lie directly into the camera, to his face. Nothing. The man thinks you can take a blood sample and stick it in an electron microscope, and if it's got a virus in there, you'll know it. He understands electron microscopy, and he doesn't understand medicine. He should not be in a position like he's in. Most of those guys up there on the top are just total administrative people, and they don't know anything about what's going on in the bottom. You know, those guys have got an agenda, which is not what we would like them to have, being that we pay for them to take care of our health in some way. They've got a personal kind of agenda. They make up their own rules as they go. They change them when they want to, and they smuggle it. Like Tony Fauci does not mind going on television in front of the people who pay his salary and lie directly into the camera.
This story, Sherry, thank you so much. Lead investigative reporter, editor at The Australian. You've got your own show on Sky News. You've got the book coming out on a global release by HarperCollins, What Happened in the Wuhan Lab. This story today is explosive. Of all the other big news, this ought to be the #1 story in the world. You've got the smoking gun on Anthony Fauci and all his lies. Explain to us what you found and what Fauci said and what Fauci did.
Steve, I think this is really terrifying and damning. Anthony Fauci is the top medical advisor to the president. His job is literally to protect the public health of Americans and not put the health of the rest of the world at risk either. But what he did is he wrote a science paper back in 2012. This is when there was debate going on about whether to ban gain-of-function research in America. It was banned 2 years later under the Obama administration in 2014. This is 2012 he's writing about it. And at the time, there was a voluntary ban on conducting gain-of-function experiments on highly infectious influenza viruses. And he writes this paper, and it's online, anyone can read it. It took a while to find it though, but anyone can read it. And he writes this paper where he says that the risk of sparking a pandemic from a laboratory accident in a sloppy or shoddy laboratory is worth the benefits of this research. This is an incomprehensible position for someone charged with America's public health to take. This isn't a political thing. This is literally, he is the top medical advisor. Why would he possibly say, it's mind-boggling, that the benefits of gain-of-function research are worth the risks of a pandemic? And I don't know if you want to read it or I can read a quote from it. It says, in an unlikely but conceivable, so he's acknowledging it's conceivable, in an unlikely but conceivable turn of events, what if that scientist becomes infected with the virus, which leads to an outbreak and ultimately triggers a pandemic? This is what Fauci wrote. And he then decides, he says, scientists working in this field might say, as indeed I have said, that the benefits of such experiments and the resulting knowledge outweigh the risks. Steve, this is utterly incomprehensible, and there was a whole body of scientists that they formed a group. They were known as the Cambridge Working Group, and they were objecting to gain-of-function research because they said the opposite of what Fauci said. They said there are no known benefits to this research. It has never been proven that it could prevent a pandemic.
Okay, I just want to, the sound is not perfect, so I just want to reiterate. Fauci in 2012 put out a paper that said the risk to doing gain of function, which is essentially weaponization of these viruses, in a lab setting where you have the potential, the possibility of a lab leak that could spread this deadly pandemic is worth it because of what you could find out by that study. Is that essentially the heart of it, Sherry Markson?
Absolutely. And that's exactly what he says. And he doesn't say it in technical language. He says it in plain English. He says the risk of a pandemic triggered by an accident in a laboratory conducting gain-of-function research is worth the benefits of the research. And as I say, the most eminent scientists in America, in the world, international group, there's a group called the Cambridge Working Group. They objected to this research, and they still do. They say that there are no known benefits to conducting gain-of-function research. And look what's happened. You know, the exact scenario that Fauci was put on the table, that may have happened. You know, that's what the intelligence agencies are investigating. Finally, after a year and a half, this may have happened.
But I want to get to something else in this article. We're putting the article in the live stream. You need to share this with everybody. You need to share it today, now. There's another, I don't want to say buried lead, explosive as you get to the bottom of it. Remember, in the time frame, Fauci writes this in 2012, where they're trying to make this argument among that scientific community, the vast majority of whom know how dangerous this is in any setting, whether it's in the great labs in the United Kingdom, the United States, and Europe. Far be it, they're not even thinking about a P4 lab in China at the time, in Wuhan. 2 years later, the Obama National Security Council, the Obama administration's National Security Council, not a bunch of right-wingers, shut down the gain-of-function experiment because of what was happening in the University of North Carolina at the University of Maryland. Okay? Your story, go to the bottom of it. Fauci, and this is what Peter Navarro keep in December 2017, in the Trump administration, unbeknownst to senior levels in the White House, Fauci reverses this policy. You got to go to the bottom of your story, which to me is almost as explosive as Fauci in 2012. You say that you now have confirmed for your book that Secretary of State Pompeo and Matt Pottinger did not know about what Fauci was doing, and that, quote unquote, Fauci went to junior people on the White House staff, and I think the quote is, force it through the system. Explain to this audience and the nation what exactly you're saying here.
So, as you said, Obama had banned or put a pause on this gain-of-function research in 2014. In 2017, Fauci has a meeting in the White House. It is in the White House, but it's with junior officials in the Office of Science and Technology, where he asks them to lift this ban of gain-of-function research, the ban on it, after conducting a review. And the quote that a source says to me is, it got rammed through. And none of the senior White House administrations were made aware that he did this. And I've spoken to many people for my book, many senior figures in that White House administration, and none of them were aware that gain-of-function research was going on, or that Fauci had taken the decision to reverse this ban. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo wasn't aware, and Matt Pottinger weren't aware either. They were in different roles in late 2017, but critical roles. Matt Pottinger was still in the White House, and Mike Pompeo was at the CIA. None of them were aware. And then even when others joined very senior positions, they were kept in the dark as well, that this gain-of-function research was going on in the United States, but let alone that the NIH was funneling money through to the EcoHealth Alliance, which was then sending it through to the Wuhan labs, where the gain-of-function research was going on. Now, Steve, I heard that, you know, Fauci tried to argue with Rand Paul to say that they weren't funding gain-of-function research. I can tell you that's false. At the end of the research papers, it says this research was funded with NIH grants, and it lists the grants that it was funded with. It is utterly false for him to say that the scientific research, the gain-of-function research being undertaken at the Wuhan labs, was not with NIH funding. It's there in black and white. It was being funded with NIH. Maybe he's trying to use some slippery definition of gain-of-function, but in my view, and I'm writing a book on this, and I've read many, dozens and dozens of the scientific papers that the Wuhan Institute of Virology are producing, and many of them are funded with NIH grants. And what he said to Rand Paul is false.
Sherry, how do people follow you with this? How do they get to your to your articles? How they order the book? I guess on Amazon. It's What Happened in the Wuhan by Sherry Marks, and how they get to your social media feed.
Yeah, last time I was on the show, I think the Amazon link was a bit faulty, but it is up now. What really happened in Wuhan on Amazon, and otherwise I'm Sherry Markson on Twitter. Thank you, Steve.
Sherry, our nation and the world owes you a great favor for many thanks for you and the research you've done and how you've grinded this out. It's going to be incredible. The book, I know, is going to be a blockbuster. We thank you so much. This article now has to be shared by everybody. Sherry Markson, thank you so much. Great job reporting.
Thank you so much.